Be honest. How many times have you reached the end of your day and quietly asked yourself, what did I actually do today? You woke up tired. You checked your phone without thinking. You stayed busy for hours. But nothing really moved your life forward. This is where most people get it wrong. They keep waiting for a big moment to change everything. A new job, a new year, a sudden breakthrough. But your life is not shaped by big moments. It is shaped by small, repeated hours you keep ignoring. And if you do not take control of those hours, nothing changes. Today, you're going to see 5 small habits that look simple, almost invisible, but have the power to completely rebuild your future if you actually use them. Let's slow this down for a second. Not theory, not advice, just your real life. You wake up in the morning, and before your mind is even fully awake, your hand is already reaching for your phone. No decision, just habit, a few notifications, a few messages, maybe a short scroll. Nothing dramatic, just 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 15, and now your morning is already rushed. You get up quickly, you move fast, you feel slightly behind, even though the day just started. Think about that. You haven't even begun your day, and you are already reacting. Then the day fills up. Work, emails, conversations, tasks, small problems, more tasks. You stay busy, constantly moving, constantly doing something. But here is the uncomfortable part. At the end of the day, when everything finally goes quiet, there is this small moment. You sit down, maybe in your car, maybe on your bed, maybe just staring at your screen, and a question shows up. What did I actually do today that moved my life forward? Not what kept you busy, not what helped you survive the day. What actually moved you forward? And most days, there is no clear answer. That is the pattern. Not one big failure. Just a quiet repetition of days that look productive, but changed nothing. Be honest. How many times have you told yourself, I will start tomorrow? How many times has that tomorrow quietly disappeared? You are not lazy. You are not incapable. And you are definitely not the only one living like this. This is the modern pattern. You wake up with 24 hours, just like everyone else. But instead of directing those hours, you spend them responding to messages, responding to work, responding to distractions, responding to whatever shows up first. And by the time the day ends, your energy is gone. Your attention is scattered. And the things that actually matter to you never got your best time. Not because you do not care, because you never protected space for them. That is why it feels so frustrating. You are trying. You are showing up. But your life is not moving in a direction you respect. And this is the part most people never say out loud. You can feel busy for years without becoming better. Let that sink in. Busy is not the same as growing. Movement is not the same as progress. And if you do not see this clearly, you can lose a lot of time without realizing it. Days turn into months. Months turn into years. And nothing looks dramatically wrong from the outside. But inside, there is this quiet pressure building. A sense that you are capable of more, but not accessing it. A sense that your life is slightly out of alignment. A sense that you are drifting. That is what drains you. Not one bad decision. 100 small days that never quite connect to something meaningful. And if that feels familiar, then this is exactly where we need to look deeper. Because the problem is not what you think it is. This is where things start to shift. Because what you just saw is not the real problem. It is the surface. Most people look at their life and think, I just need more motivation. I need to try harder. I need to be more disciplined. But that is not what is actually happening. You are not stuck because you do not care. You are stuck because your brain has been trained to work against you. Let's make this simple. Every time you feel a small discomfort, your brain looks for the fastest way out, not the best way. The fastest way. You feel bored for 2 seconds. You reach for your phone. You feel stuck on a task. You open another tab. You feel a little overwhelmed. You switch to something easier. Nothing extreme. Just small escapes. But here is the part most people never notice. Every time you escape discomfort, even for a few seconds, your brain learns something. It learns that discomfort is dangerous. And avoidance is the solution. That is the pattern. And the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. Now add one more layer. The world you live in is designed to make this worse. Endless content, instant entertainment, fast dopamine. Everything is built to give you relief immediately. So your brain gets used to speed, fast pleasure, fast distraction, fast escape. And when real work shows up, something slower, something uncomfortable, something that requires focus, your brain rejects it. Not because you are weak, because you are conditioned. Think about how often you switch. You open your laptop to work. Within minutes, you check something else, then something else, then something else. It feels small, but every switch has a cost. Your attention breaks. Your focus resets. Your brain gets tired faster. This is called fragmentation, and it quietly destroys your ability to go deep. That is why you can sit for hours and still feel like you did nothing meaningful. Not because you lack time, because your attention is scattered. And scattered attention cannot build anything valuable. Now here is where it gets even more subtle. When this pattern repeats long enough, it starts to shape how you see yourself. You begin to think, maybe I am just not consistent. Maybe I am just not disciplined. Maybe this is just who I am. But that is not true. You are not describing your identity. You are describing your pattern. And patterns can be changed, but only if you see them clearly. Let me say this in a way that is hard to ignore. You are not losing your life because of one big mistake. You are losing it through small, repeated moments of unconscious choice. Choosing distraction, choosing delay, choosing comfort. Again and again, not dramatic, just daily. And this is why waiting for a big breakthrough does not work. Because your life is not built in breakthroughs. It is built in hours. Quiet hours. Unseen hours. Hours where nobody is watching. Hours where you either move forward or you quietly stay the same. So the real question is not, how do I change everything overnight? The real question is much smaller and much more uncomfortable. What do you do in the first 5 seconds after discomfort appears? Do you stay with it or do you escape? Be honest, because that answer is shaping your entire life. And most people never even notice it. Let me show you what this looks like on the other side. Not theory, a real pattern. There is a type of person you have seen before. They are not loud. They are not constantly talking about motivation. They are not jumping from one new system to another. But somehow, year after year, their life moves forward. Slowly. Clearly. Almost quietly. At first, it does not even look impressive. Their days look simple. They wake up at roughly the same time. They start their work without negotiating with themselves. They do not ask, do I feel like it today? They just begin. They have a small set of behaviors they repeat. Reading, practicing, working on one skill, taking care of their body. Nothing extreme, nothing flashy. But here's the difference. They do it when it is boring. They do it when it is inconvenient. They do it when nobody is watching. Think about that. Most people are willing to work hard when they feel inspired. Very few people are willing to be consistent when they feel nothing. That is the separation. Let me give you a simple scene. Two people sit down at their desk. Same time, same intention. The first person opens their laptop, feels a slight resistance, and instantly looks for something easier. Just a quick check, just a short break. That turns into a delay. Then another, and by the time they come back, their focus is gone. The second person feels the exact same resistance. Nothing different. Same discomfort. Same urge to escape. But they do one thing differently. They stay, just for a few more seconds. They open the document. They start, even if it is messy, even if it is slow, even if it is uncomfortable. That is it. No dramatic moment. No burst of motivation. Just a small decision to not escape. And that small decision, repeated daily, starts to compound. Day 1, it feels insignificant. Day 10, still nothing special. Day 30, something begins to shift. Their brain starts to trust that they will not run. Their focus lasts a little longer. Their work becomes a little deeper. And over time, something even more important happens. Their identity changes. They stop seeing themselves as someone who tries and start seeing themselves as someone who follows through. That is powerful. Because once your identity shifts, your behavior stops being a fight. It becomes a standard. Now look at the long game. One person keeps escaping small discomforts. The other keeps staying with them. After a year, the gap is not small. It is massive. Skills are different. Confidence is different. Opportunities are different. But from the outside, it still looks like luck. It still looks like talent. It still looks like they had something you do not. But that is not true. They just made a different decision in small moments, again and again. Let me say that clearly. They did not win because they were more motivated. They won because they were more consistent in moments that felt uncomfortable. That is the pattern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The question is, what do you do with it? Because now you know. The difference is not in big actions. It is in small, repeated choices most people ignore. Now we need to look at the system that is actually running your life, not your goals, not your plans. Your system, because whether you realize it or not, you are already following one. And it looks like this. Something small happens. A moment you barely notice. You feel a little tired, a little bored, a little stuck. That is the trigger. Nothing dramatic, just a slight discomfort. And almost instantly, something else appears. An urge, a quiet pull to move away from that feeling, to check something, to switch tasks, to delay just for a moment. That is the urge. Now comes a decision point. And this is where most people lose control without realizing it. You escape. You pick up your phone. You open another tab. You tell yourself, just a minute. That is the escape. And right after that, you feel it. Relief. Small. Temporary. But real. The discomfort is gone. And your brain registers that. Very clearly, discomfort appeared. You escaped. You felt better. So your brain says, do that again. That is reinforcement. And then the loop resets. Trigger. Urge. Escape. Relief. Reinforcement. Repeat. That is the system. Simple. Quiet. Extremely powerful. And the dangerous part is how invisible it feels. Because none of these moments look important. It is just a quick check. Just a short break. Just a small delay. But repeated over and over, this loop becomes automatic. You stop choosing. You start reacting. Let me give you a scene you know. You are sitting in your car after work. Engine off. Phone in your hand. You tell yourself you are going inside in a second. But you stay. Scrolling. Watching. Avoiding that small moment of transition. Nothing urgent. nothing important, but you cannot seem to move. Why? Because your brain has learned that staying here feels easier than stepping into the next task. Another scene. You open your laptop with full intention. Today will be different. You're going to focus. You start, and within minutes, that same feeling appears. Slight resistance, slight discomfort, and without even thinking, you reach for something else. Not because you decided to quit, because the loop activated. This is what most people never understand. You're not breaking your promises in big, obvious ways. You are breaking them in micro moments. Moments so small they feel harmless. But they are not, because every time you follow that loop, you train your brain to avoid. And over time, something deeper happens. You stop trusting yourself. You start to notice the pattern. You say you will do something. Then you do not. Again, and again, and again. And even if you do not say it out loud, a belief forms. Maybe I am not the kind of person who follows through. That is where it gets dangerous. Because now it is not just behavior. It is identity. And identity is much harder to fight than a single habit. But here is the shift. And this is important. The loop itself is not the enemy. It is natural. Every human brain works this way. The problem is not that the loop exists. The problem is what you do inside it. Right now, your pattern is automatic escape, automatic relief, automatic reset. But that can change, because there is one point in this loop where everything is still flexible. One moment where you still have control, right after the urge appears. That small window, that 5-second space where you feel discomfort and your brain says, leave. That is where your future is decided, not in big decisions. Right there, in that small, quiet moment. So let me ask you something. When that urge shows up, what do you usually do? Do you stay for just a few seconds longer? Or do you disappear into distraction without even noticing? Be honest, because that answer is not small. That answer is shaping your entire life. Let's pause for a second, because right now, something important is happening. You are listening. You are understanding. Maybe you are even agreeing with everything so far. But let me ask you something directly. Are you just recognizing the pattern? Or are you actually seeing yourself inside it? There is a difference, a big one, because most people get this far, they nod, they say this makes sense, and then they go right back to the same loop tomorrow. Same distractions, same delays, same quiet frustration at the end of the day. Nothing changes. Not because the information was wrong, because they never made a decision. So be honest. What is this for you right now? Just another video you will forget? Or a moment where you finally say, this pattern stops with me? You do not need more information. You already know enough. What you need is a line. A point where you stop negotiating with your old habits. And the reason this matters is simple. If nothing changes after this moment, then everything you just understood becomes useless. Awareness without action is just another form of delay. So before we go any further, make this clear in your own mind. Are you staying the same? Or are you actually going to interrupt the pattern? Because what comes next will only work if you're willing to use it. Now we make this practical, not complicated, not overwhelming, small, precise, because your life will not change from one big action. It will change from what you repeat tomorrow morning, and the next morning, and the next. So we are not building a perfect system. We are installing 5 small habits that interrupt your old pattern and replace it with something stronger, simple enough to start, powerful enough to matter. Let's begin with the first one, the 1-hour protocol. 1 hour, every day, dedicated to something that actually moves your life forward, not reacting, not checking, not switching. Just one focused hour. That is it. Most people hear this and immediately think, I do not have time. But be honest. How much time do you lose without noticing? 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Scrolling, switching, avoiding. It adds up. The problem is not time. It is unprotected time. So this is the rule. You choose 1 hour. Same time every day if possible. And during that hour, you remove options. No phone, no switching, no negotiation. You sit down and you begin, even if it feels slow, even if it feels uncomfortable, especially then, because this habit is not about productivity. It is about retraining your brain to stay. That is the goal, not perfection. Consistency. Let me give you a simple version. Set a timer for 60 minutes. Open one task. And tell yourself, I am not leaving this for 1 hour. That sentence alone changes everything. Now the second habit. Read 10 pages a day. That is it. 10 pages. Not a full book. Not hours of study. Just 10 pages. Because right now, most of your input is fast, shallow, and forgettable. Short videos, quick posts, endless scrolling. It fills your time, but it weakens your thinking. Reading does the opposite. It slows you down. It forces focus. It builds depth. And over time, it changes how you think. 10 pages a day may feel small, but over a year, that is thousands of pages. Ideas, perspectives, clarity, quietly stacking in your mind. If 10 pages feels too much, start with 5, but do it every day. That is the rule, not intensity. Consistency. Now the third habit, 5 minutes of silence. Before the world touches you, before your phone, before your messages. You sit, no input, no noise, just 5 minutes. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will want stimulation. It will look for something to grab. That is the point. You are training yourself to not react instantly. You are creating space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you gain control. A quiet mind makes better decisions. A reactive mind just follows patterns. So tomorrow morning, try this. Sit down, set a timer for 5 minutes, and do nothing, just observe. That is enough. Now the fourth habit, daily physical activation. This is not about building the perfect body. It is about creating energy. Because right now, many of your decisions are driven by low energy. You feel tired, so you avoid. You feel heavy, so you delay. Movement changes that. Even 10 minutes. A short walk, push-ups, stretching, anything that gets your body moving. Because action creates energy, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel ready. That is why they stay stuck. You move first. Energy follows. That is the rule. So do not overthink it. Wake up. Move your body. Even a little. Every day. Now the fifth habit. Mirror talk. This one feels simple, but it is powerful. You stand in front of a mirror. You look into your own eyes, and you speak your goals out loud. In English, not in your head. Out loud. At first, it will feel awkward, maybe even uncomfortable. That is normal, because you are not used to hearing yourself commit. But this is not about motivation. It is about identity. When you speak clearly, directly, and repeatedly, something shifts. Your brain starts to connect your voice with your intention, your words with your actions. You stop being someone who just thinks about change. You become someone who declares it. Let me give you a simple line. Say this. I do what I say I will do. Say it slowly. Look at yourself. And mean it. Because over time, that sentence becomes real. Not because you believed it at first. Because you proved it through repetition. Now listen carefully. None of these habits are impressive. They are not exciting. They are not dramatic. That is why they work, because they are easy to repeat. And repetition is what changes your life, not intensity, not motivation. Repetition, small actions, done daily. That is the system. And if you actually apply even one of these, not all five, just one, you will start to feel something shift. Not overnight, but soon enough that you notice, because for the first time, you are not reacting. You are directing, and that changes everything. Now slow down again, because this is the part most people try to skip, not because it is complicated, because it is uncomfortable. You have seen the pattern. You understand the system. You know what to do, but the real question is not about knowledge. It is about honesty. So let's make this simple and very direct. When you say you want to change your life, what do you actually mean? Do you mean you want a different outcome? Or do you mean you are willing to live differently every day? Because those are not the same. Think about your last 7 days. Not in general. Specifically, how many of those days did you act like the person you say you want to become? Not perfectly, just honestly. How many times did you choose focus over distraction? How many times did you stay when it felt uncomfortable? How many times did you follow through without negotiating? And how many times did you quietly walk away from your own intentions? No judgment, just awareness, because this is where clarity begins. Here is another question. If nothing changes from this point forward, what does your life look like in 1 year? Not your hopes, your current pattern. Same habits, same reactions, same level of focus. Where does that lead? Sit with that for a second, because most people do not fail suddenly. They drift, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day they look back and realize they never really took control. Now flip it. If you take just one of these habits seriously, just one, and you repeat it every day, what changes? Not instantly, but gradually. Your focus improves. Your confidence builds. You start trusting yourself again. And that trust is not small. Because right now, if you are honest, part of you does not fully believe your own promises. You have said things before. You have planned things before. And you did not follow through. So let me ask you this. What would it feel like to trust yourself again? Not in theory, in reality. To say something and actually do it. To make a plan and actually follow it. To sit down and not escape. That is not just productivity. That is self-respect. And this is the part people avoid, because it removes excuses. You already know enough. You already have time. You already have options. The only thing left is a decision to act differently, consistently, quietly, without needing to feel ready. So ask yourself one final question. Not what sounds good, not what feels motivating. What are you actually going to do tomorrow when discomfort shows up? Not your ideal answer, your real answer, because that moment is coming. It always does. And when it arrives, you will either repeat the same pattern or you will interrupt it. That is where your future begins. Not someday, not next month. In that small, quiet moment most people ignore, this is where it becomes real. Because nothing we talked about is extreme. There is no dramatic failure waiting for you. No single moment where everything suddenly falls apart. That is not how most lives drift off track. It happens quietly. You delay one task. You avoid one uncomfortable moment. You choose something easier. Just once. Then again and again. Not enough to scare you, but enough to shape you. That is how it works. Not one big collapse. 100 small concessions. And the dangerous part is this. You can live like this for a long time, functioning, working, even appearing fine from the outside. But internally, something starts to erode. Your standards drop. your focus weakens, your trust in yourself slowly disappears, and you feel it in small moments when you hesitate, when you overthink, when you say you will do something, and a part of you already knows you probably will not. That is the cost, not immediate pain. Slow disconnection from your potential, from your direction, from the version of yourself you know is possible. Let me say this clearly. Every time you escape when it gets uncomfortable, you are voting for a weaker version of yourself. Every time you stay, even for a few seconds longer, you are building strength, not visible, not dramatic, but real. So the question is not, will your life change? It will. The only question is, in which direction? Because right now, you are already practicing something every day. You are either practicing avoidance, or you are practicing control. And whatever you practice, you become. So now, everything comes down to this. Not information, not intention, decision. Because at this point, you already see it. You see the pattern. You see the cost. You see the small moments where everything either moves forward or quietly stays the same. So the question is no longer what should you do. The question is, who are you going to be when it matters? When that moment shows up tomorrow morning. When you feel tired. When you feel resistance. When your brain tells you to delay, to scroll, to avoid. What happens then? Do you follow the same path you have followed for years? Or do you interrupt it? Even once. Even for a few seconds. Because that is where discipline begins. Not in big promises. Not in perfect plans. In small acts of control. Repeated. Daily. Without negotiation. Let's make something clear. Motivation will not save you. Motivation is unstable. It comes and goes. It feels strong for a moment and then disappears when things get uncomfortable. You already know this. You have felt it. You start something with energy, and then a few days later, it fades. That is not a failure. That is how motivation works. So if you rely on it, you'll always start strong and end the same way. Discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It does not wait for the right mood. It does not need excitement. It operates on something much quieter. A decision that you keep. A standard that you follow. Even when it is boring. Even when it is inconvenient. Even when nobody is watching. That is power. Not loud. Not dramatic. But stable. And once you build that, something changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop breaking your own word. You stop living in that constant cycle of starting and stopping. You become someone who follows through. And that changes everything. Because when you trust yourself, your decisions become stronger. Your focus becomes sharper. Your life becomes more directed. Not perfect, but controlled. Let me say this in the simplest way possible. You do not need more time. You do not need more advice. You do not need a new system every week. You need to stop escaping small discomforts and start staying with them just a little longer. Every day, that is the shift from reaction to control, from drifting to directing, from hoping things change to making them change. So tomorrow, when that moment appears, and it will, do something different. Stay just a few seconds longer. Start, even if it feels messy. And repeat that again the next day. And the next, because your future is not built in one decision. It is built in the decisions you repeat. Quietly, daily, without stopping. That is discipline. And once you have that, you do not need to chase change anymore. You become the person who creates it. If this made something clear for you, do not let it end here. Pick one habit, not all 5, just one, and commit to it starting tomorrow. Quietly, seriously, if you are ready to live with more control, more clarity, and higher standards, subscribe to this channel. not for motivation, for consistency. And if you are serious, write down the one habit you are choosing. Because change does not start when you feel ready. It starts when you decide.